I watched in stunned silence as my mother-in-law, Eleanor, brazenly switched my daughter Sophie's brand new birthday presents with a box of old, worn-out toys. The living room fell quiet, 20 pairs of eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before them. Sophie, now 7, clutched her favorite stuffed rabbit tighter, her small shoulders tense. "These are much better toys," Eleanor announced, sliding the box of cast-offs towards Sophie. "Madison barely played with them. Besides, you should be grateful for anything you receive." Her voice dripped with that familiar condescension that made my blood boil. Madison, Eleanor's precious granddaughter from her daughter's side, smirked from her perch on the couch. At 9 years old, she'd already mastered her grandmother's attitude of superiority. "Thank you, Eleanor," I said calmly, surprising even myself with my steady tone. "How thoughtful of you to bring these." I caught my husband David's eye across the room, but he quickly looked away, his discomfort evident in his rigid posture. Typical. He never stood up to his mother, not even when she pulled stunts like this. "Well?" Eleanor straightened her designer blouse, clearly disappointed by my lack of reaction. "Madison's toys are practically new. She has so many, she hardly gets to play with them all. I thought it would be nice to share with." She paused, her lips curling slightly. "The less fortunate." Less fortunate. Right, because my job as a pediatric nurse and David's position as a high school teacher made us charity cases in Eleanor's eyes. Not like her precious daughter, Amanda, who married a surgeon and lived in a mansion across town. "Mommy," Sophie whispered, tugging at my sleeve. "Where are my other presents?" Her eyes darted to the corner where I carefully arranged her actual birthday gifts. The art set she'd been begging for, the new chapter books she'd been excited to read, the science kit that matched her growing curiosity about the world. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I said, hugging her close. "We'll sort everything out." Eleanor was already gathering Madison's coat, preparing for their grand exit. "We need to get going," she announced. "Madison has her piano recital this afternoon. A real one, at the conservatory." She emphasized the last part, a direct jab at Sophie's school choir performance next week. As they swept out the door, Eleanor called over her shoulder, "I'll have David drop off Sophie's original presents at Amanda's house. Madison can add them to her playroom." She said it like she was doing us a favor, like we should be grateful for her generosity. The door clicked shut behind them, and the remaining guests shifted uncomfortably. Sophie's little friends from school looked confused, while their parents wore expressions ranging from pity to secondhand embarrassment. This was exactly what Eleanor wanted, to humiliate us, to remind everyone that in her eyes, we were second-class citizens in her family hierarchy. But what Eleanor didn't know, what she couldn't possibly suspect, was that I'd been preparing for something like this. 6 months of careful documentation, secret recordings of her visits, detailed accounts of every manipulative comment and underhanded action. The final piece had just fallen into place, wrapped in the perfect bow of today's public display. "All right, everyone." I clapped my hands, pushing aside my anger to focus on what mattered. "Who's ready for cake?" The kids cheered, the tension breaking as they rushed to the kitchen. The adults followed, relief evident in their faces at the change of subject. David hung back, his expression troubled. "Megan," he started, "I'm sorry about Mom. You know how she gets." I cut him off with a raised hand. "Not now, David. This is Sophie's day, and I won't let your mother ruin it." I pulled out my phone, sending a quick text to my lawyer. It happened. Exactly as we predicted. "Send the papers." The response came immediately. "Documents prepared. Will be delivered first thing tomorrow." I smiled, tucking my phone away. Eleanor had no idea what she just set in motion. She thought she was teaching us a lesson about our place in her world. Instead, she'd just given me the final piece of evidence I needed. Later that night, after the party wound down and Sophie was asleep upstairs, surrounded by the cards and small gifts her friends had brought, I sat at my desk reviewing the video footage. Our nanny cam had captured everything perfectly. Eleanor's calculated cruelty, her deliberate humiliation of a 7-year-old child, all in crystal clear HD. I added it to the file, along with the photos I'd taken of the switched toys and the witness statements I collected after Eleanor left. 6 months of similar incidents, all meticulously documented, were about to come to fruition. "What are you doing?" David asked from the doorway, his voice tired. I looked up at my husband, the man who'd stood by silently for years as his mother tormented his own daughter. I'm protecting our child, I said simply. Since you won't. He flinched but didn't argue. He knew I was right. Tomorrow's going to be interesting, I added, closing my laptop. You might want to prepare yourself. What does that mean? He asked, worry creeping into his tone. I stood up, gathering my files. It means your mother finally went too far, and unlike you, I'm not afraid to stand up to her. As I got ready for bed that night, I couldn't help but smile, thinking about the certified letter that would arrive at Eleanor's house tomorrow morning. She thought she was untouchable, that her money and social status made her immune to consequences. She was about to learn otherwise. Sophie deserved better than to grow up feeling less than. And if her father wouldn't protect her from Eleanor's toxic behavior, I would. Sometimes the best revenge isn't immediate and dramatic. It's careful, calculated, and completely by the book. Tomorrow, Eleanor would learn exactly what kind of mistake she'd made in underestimating me. Eleanor's shrill voice pierced through my phone speaker at 9:47 a.m., exactly when I expected her call. How dare you, she screeched. Cease and desist. Threats of legal action. What kind of stunt are you trying to pull? I calmly sipped my coffee at the kitchen counter, picturing her face as she read through the extensive documentation my lawyer had compiled. It's not a stunt, Eleanor. It's consequences. Consequences. She practically spat the word. For what? Being a caring grandmother? Trying to teach that spoiled child of yours some humility? No, I replied evenly. For years of documented psychological abuse, deliberate sabotage of a minor's emotional well-being, and most recently, theft of personal property. Theft. Her voice rose another octave. Those presents were garbage compared to what I offered. Those presents weren't yours to take. And we have 20 witnesses, plus video evidence of you explicitly stating your intention to give them to Madison. There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Eleanor spoke again, her voice had shifted to the syrupy sweet tone she used when trying to manipulate situations. Darling, let's not be hasty. Perhaps I was a bit overzealous yesterday. We can sort this out within the family. There's no need for lawyers and legal threats. Actually, there is. I opened my laptop, pulling up the folder I'd labeled Eleanor's greatest hits. Would you like me to remind you of the Christmas incident? When you told everyone Sophie's presents had been donated to charity because she'd been ungrateful, only to have them appear under Madison's tree? Or last Easter, when you deliberately excluded her from the family photos, telling her she didn't match the aesthetic? You're twisting everything. Eleanor protested. David, tell her she's being ridiculous. I hadn't even noticed my husband enter the kitchen. He stood in the doorway, his face pale as he listened to his mother's voice on speakerphone. Mom, he said quietly, I've seen the evidence. All of it. The videos, the photos, the witness statements. This has to stop. I'm taking my daughter's side, he replied, his voice growing stronger. Finally. I felt a surge of pride. Maybe there was hope for him after all. The terms are simple. I continued, my tone professional. You will return every gift you took yesterday. You will cease all attempts to belittle, exclude, or emotionally manipulate Sophie. You will treat her with the same respect you show Madison, or you will not be permitted to see her at all. You can't keep my granddaughter from me. Eleanor snapped. I have rights. Actually, you don't, I corrected her. I've consulted with 3 family law attorneys. Your behavior constitutes harassment and emotional abuse of a minor. We have more than enough evidence to obtain a restraining order if necessary. And what about Amanda and Madison? You deprive them of their cousin and aunt. That's entirely up to them, I replied. They're welcome to maintain a relationship with Sophie, provided they respect our boundaries. But if they choose to participate in your behavior, they'll face the same consequences. David, Eleanor gasped. You're taking her side? Against your own mother? I'm taking my daughter's side, he replied, his voice growing stronger. Finally, I felt a surge of pride. Maybe there was hope for him after all. The terms are simple. I continued, my tone professional. You will return every gift you took yesterday. You will cease all attempts to belittle, exclude, or emotionally manipulate Sophie. You will treat her with the same respect you show Madison, or you will not be permitted to see her at all. You can't keep my granddaughter from me. Eleanor snapped. I have rights. Actually, you don't, I corrected her. I've consulted with 3 family law attorneys. Your behavior constitutes harassment and emotional abuse of a minor. We have more than enough evidence to obtain a restraining order if necessary. And what about Amanda and Madison? You deprive them of their cousin and aunt. That's entirely up to them, I replied. They're welcome to maintain a relationship with Sophie, provided they respect our boundaries. But if they choose to participate in your behavior, they'll face the same consequences. Eleanor's breathing was heavy on the other end of the line. I could practically hear her mind racing, trying to find a way to regain control of the situation. I'll fight this, she threatened. I'll tell everyone what an ungrateful, manipulative daughter-in-law you are. Go ahead, I said calmly. I'm sure the country club would love to see the video of you stealing presents from a 7-year-old. I bet your church group would be fascinated by the recording of you telling Sophie she doesn't deserve to be in the family photos. Should I start sending out the evidence now? Another pause, longer this time. What exactly do you want? Eleanor finally asked, her voice tight with suppressed rage. I told you, return the presents, treat Sophie with respect, or stay away. You have until 5 p.m. today to decide and return what you took. After that, my lawyer files the paperwork for a restraining order. I ended the call before she could respond, letting out a long breath. David walked over and placed a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, he said softly. I should have stood up to her years ago. Yes, you should have, I agreed. But you're standing up now, and that's what matters. He nodded, squeezing my shoulder gently. Sophie deserves better. We both knew it, but I was too afraid to admit it. Afraid of what? Losing my mother's approval, her financial support, the family connections. He laughed bitterly. It all seems so stupid now, watching that video of Sophie's face when Mom took her presents. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Amanda, Eleanor's daughter. Mom's having a meltdown, says you're trying to destroy the family. What's really going on? I forwarded her the video from yesterday's party, along with a few choice clips from previous incidents. This is what's going on. Your mother's behavior stops now, or she loses access to Sophie. Your choice whether you want to be part of the problem or part of the solution. The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared several times before Amanda finally replied. I had no idea it was this bad. I'll talk to Mom. The presents will be returned today. I showed the message to David, who let out a relieved sigh. Maybe there's hope for this family after all. Maybe, I agreed, but from now on, we protect Sophie first. No more letting things slide for the sake of family harmony. He nodded firmly. No more. Upstairs, I could hear Sophie starting to wake up, her small feet padding across the floor. Despite everything, she was still just a bright, loving 7-year-old who deserved to feel secure and valued in her own family. Eleanor had until 5 p.m. to make her choice. Somehow, I had a feeling she wouldn't like any of her options. At 4:58 p.m., a sleek black SUV pulled into our driveway. Amanda stepped out, carrying 2 large bags filled with Sophie's original birthday presents. Her face was drawn, and for the first time since I'd known her, she looked uncomfortable in her designer outfit. Everything's here, she said, handing me the bags. I made sure Mom didn't keep anything. She hesitated, then added, I had no idea how bad things had gotten. Looking back now, I can see the pattern. I nodded, accepting both the presents and the implicit apology. And Eleanor. Amanda's expression tightened. She's adjusting. The family lawyer explained the situation to her. She knows you have enough evidence to make things very uncomfortable for her socially. And Madison. She's learning some hard lessons about kindness and consequences. Amanda managed a small smile. I've enrolled her in therapy. Turns out Mom's behavior affected her too, just in different ways. Inside, Sophie was doing homework at the kitchen table. She looked up as we entered, her eyes widening at the sight of her original presents. Are those mine again? She asked cautiously. Yes, sweetheart, I assured her. And they're staying yours this time. Over the next few weeks, the family dynamics shifted dramatically. Eleanor, faced with the reality of her documented behavior and the threat of social exposure, chose to travel abroad for a while. In reality, she'd retreated to her beach house to lick her wounds. David stepped up in ways that surprised me. He started attending therapy himself, working through years of his mother's manipulation. Watching him rebuild his relationship with Sophie on healthier terms made all the careful planning worth it. 1 month after the birthday incident, we hosted a small family dinner. Amanda and Madison came without Eleanor. As we sat around the table, the atmosphere was different, more genuine, less performative. Madison, chastened by her mother's new awareness, actually played with Sophie after dinner. The two girls discovered they shared a love of art, and soon the dining room table was covered in drawings. "I'm sorry," Madison said suddenly, looking up from her sketch, "for being mean before. Grandma always said." Well, she said a lot of things that weren't true. Sophie, her heart bigger than any adult's, simply smiled. "Want to use my new art set? The colors are really cool." Later that evening, after our guests had left, David found me in the kitchen cleaning up. "You know what I realized?" he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "You weren't just protecting Sophie. You were protecting all of us from Mom's toxicity. We just couldn't see it." I turned to face him. Sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom to realize you need to climb out. "Well, I'm glad you were there with a ladder," he said with a smile, kissing my forehead. The next morning, an email arrived from Eleanor. The subject line read, "Terms accepted." "I understand that my behavior has been problematic," she wrote. "I've begun counseling Amanda's suggestion. While I'm not ready to admit to everything you've accused me of, I am willing to abide by your conditions regarding Sophie. Please let me know when, and if, you feel I can begin supervised visits." I showed the email to David. He read it twice, then looked at me with raised eyebrows. "That's probably the closest thing to an apology anyone's ever gotten from her." "It's a start," I agreed. "A small one, but still." Sophie bounded down the stairs then, wearing her favorite pajamas and clutching a drawing she'd made. It showed our whole family, including Eleanor, Amanda, and Madison, all holding hands and smiling. "Do you think Grandma Eleanor will like it?" she asked hopefully. "When she comes back." I hugged her close, marveling at her capacity for forgiveness. "I think she'll love it, sweetheart. And when she's ready to see it, we'll be ready too, on our terms." As Sophie skipped off to get ready for school, I added Eleanor's email to my documentation folder, not to use as ammunition this time, but as a reminder that sometimes the biggest victories come not from destroying your opponents, but from showing them a better way forward. The old birthday presents sat proudly in Sophie's room now, alongside the art she had made with Madison. They were more than just toys. They were symbols of a battle fought and won, not through anger or revenge, but through careful preparation and unwavering boundaries. Eleanor would eventually return from her self-imposed exile, and when she did, she'd find a family change, one that had learned to stand together against toxicity, to value truth over appearances, and to protect its youngest members at all costs. Sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing, but about finding the courage to change the rules of the game entirely.